Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Marissa Price. I am what am I? Black woman social worker. Y'all, it's that type of night. It's that type of night here. I am a social worker, healer, educator, dedicated to creating safe spaces on the internet for Black women to heal and share our stories in authenticity. But yeah, I'm here with a lovely guest who is a returning guest on my channel, Angela Kanu. Yeah, I'll pass it over to her to introduce herself.
Hi, so today I come to you from Bali, Indonesia. So saying that, if my, internet and things is going in and out, please, 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 I apologize. But I'm Angela Kanu, and I'm an emotional well-being coach, and I'm a slow traveler. And I work with people around making life transitions, and that could be about career breaks, sabbaticals, moving abroad, taking your business abroad, and what are some of the foundational steps that you need to be able to do that. And obviously I've done that 3 times. So, and I'm also social worker. And so, yeah, I do coaching around moving abroad. There's some of the trauma work. There's a piece around trauma and also around life story work, because I think that's a really big key sometimes for us. We become adults and we run into the sunset, and sometimes we forget some of the things that may have impacted our trajectory and impacted our story. So I do a lot of that work as well. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing. I see got folks in the chat. So shout them out. Yes, Sandra. Hey, hi, ladies. So glad to see you talking about this. The struggle to relax is real. It is. It takes time
It
for your
is.
body to catch up with your new reality. I'll be in this chat. Yay! Yay!
Hey.
Yes, Sandra. That is so real. It takes time for your body to catch up with your new reality. It really
When you
does.
know, when you know, you know. And I wish
Mm-hmm.
I'd been prepared for that. Really, I
Me
wish.
too.
I thought I was sick. I actually thought I had a deadly disease. I thought that I was, on my last, because I didn't know what was going on. It was actually a really
Mm-hmm.
confusing time for me when I moved abroad the 3rd time, because that was not school related, it wasn't university related, and it wasn't work related. It was just me going and
Right.
coming and going. And I really thought I was sick. I remember calling my sister and saying, I don't know what's wrong with me. Am I really sick? And then I
Mm-hmm.
started to remember all the stuff that I'd learned as a social worker dealing with children who'd suffered significant trauma, and
Mm.
what happens to the body when you are filled with cortisol and all the stress hormones, actually what happens to your major organs. And they actually think now, there's research that's saying that when the body is flooded with cortisol for long periods of time, they believe that the brain actually begins to shrink.
Really?
Mm,
Ooh.
mm,
Wow. Yeah.
mm.
And I think a lot of us don't even realize that we're in traumatic environments
Yeah,
until we leave, right? And then we look back like, oh
absolutely.
my gosh, what was I experiencing day to day? I kind of experienced that like going back to the US after having been in Mexico for like 9 months.
Right.
Just the trauma of being Black in the US, like having someone say they were going to call the cops on me, right? For walking a dog in a yard. Like that was an apartment building. I'm like, okay, we're back in the US. We're back in this,
Yeah.
whatever this is. So it's like in realizing the impact of having experienced that my entire life, right?
Mm,
And being in
yeah.
a place where I don't anymore, and all those memories come flooding back. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting that you talk. On my way to Bali, I stopped in Los Angeles. I was not in Los
Oh.
Angeles for more than 3
Mm-hmm.
hours.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Whole Foods because I love feeding my body good nutrients, and I love fruits and vegetables, and I'm a vegetarian. So I went to my local Whole Foods in Venice. I get there, I get to the checkout, and the checkout guy says to me, "Can I look in your bag?" I was
I
like,
saw that on Instagram. I'm like,
who?
wow.
I was like, who are you talking to?
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Who are you talking to? And then I was taken right back, and I was like, I haven't been in this country for 3 hours, and
Mm.
and
Three
already I'm
hours.
I'm feeling the pressure of being, you know, othered in a kind of space that's maybe traditionally seen as a white space. I don't know. I don't know what was going on.
Whole Foods,
No,
yep.
nobody else was being asked to see inside their bags. I threw the bag at the man. I threw the bag at the man. And I went to leave, and then I went back in again, and I spoke to the manager, who it was like talking to the wind. You know, it was just like, this is not going to go anywhere. It was like talking to the wind, and I was so frustrated. I was like, I now know why, you know, getting out of some of these places is for our own peace of mind. And yeah, it's just a very, very horrible experience going to Los Angeles. No, that one experience. Los Angeles was obviously wonderful, but that experience was like a real kind of like pulling me back into a different reality. And I was like,
That's
do not
true.
want this. I do not want this.
Yeah. Can I ask, just like being from the UK, is that like a different experience?
No,
being Black in the US?
Same,
Okay.
no, same things happen. People
Same
follow
here.
you around the store, you know, and so you've got to be really bold and ask, can I help you? You know, the people in the store are following you around the store, particularly Black hair stores. So you would call it a beauty supply store. So
Yes.
particularly in the, and it's like, we're the only people using this hair. Like, just get off me, you know? And I'm like, can I help you? And they're like, can I help you? And I'm like, no, but if I need your help, I'll come and ask you.
I'll ask.
And your male, how will you help me?
Mm-hmm.
If I ask you, is this the right skin tone for this color, this hair, the right skin tone? You are not going to help me. So stop pretending.
Right.
You are profiling me and you are surveilling me.
That's it.
That's all that you're doing.
Ooh, that's
because
real.
if I say, does red or burgundy go with this skin tone, you will not know what to do as a man.
I don't know. It's
So
too much. Yeah, it's
totally
too much.
hear you.
And it's like being out of that in a different environment. It's like, not saying that like anti-Blackness, colorism does not exist in Mexico, but it's like, it's a whole different ballgame when you enter back into the US, right? And a lot of us, like you said, like fly through the US to other destinations. A lot of people who move abroad in this community are from the US originally. And it's like that trauma really sets in. And one of the things we're going to talk about is like when you have time to rest, right? A lot of these things come flooding back. So yeah, I'd love to ask just, I guess first, like what led you to take a sabbatical from your job in the first place? What was leading up to that?
It's just the culmination of life, right? It's just the layers of, you know, just pure stress. And actually, as much as it's stress, I think I probably luckily had an opportunity, had an opportunity to have a moment of life that I was living. And I think COVID was quite instrumental in giving me time and space, because those are the two things that we get robbed of when we're doing this grinding culture lifestyle. I don't know if it's a lifestyle, a prison sentence, I don't know what it is, but this system of working is in a way, you know, it robs you of time and space. So COVID gave me time and it gave me space. And I was like, hang on a minute. Like, when did this happen? Why am I here? And what can I do to get out? And so that kind of propelled me to start thinking, am I going to do this until, you know, I die? Am I going to live this life until I die?
That's what I thought too. I'm like, I can't do this. Yeah.
You know, is there another option? Is there a way out? Do I have to sell photos of my pinky toes? What do I have to do to get out of this?
The feet pics.
What do I have to do to escape this nightmare? And it didn't start off as a nightmare. I think COVID made me realize that actually, this was deeply unsatisfying and actually could potentially be the death of me.
That's real. That's real.
Yeah. Whether it was real or imagined, I started to have those thoughts. And I was like, if I'm on my deathbed, am I going to be saying I wish I'd worked harder, or I wish I'd experienced the world in the way that I want to? I wish I had experienced the richness of my relationships and community and what it means to be a human. Would that be more valuable to me on my deathbed? And I know that's really macabre to say, but I really thought, am I going to be saying I wish I worked more? Or I'm going to miss my Lamborghini, or I'm going to miss my Maserati. No, I was going to miss people and places and feelings and emotions and maybe some food and some drink and dancing. And I was going to miss like my eyes witnessing beautiful things. These were the things that I began to see. Oh, this was actually really important. This is more important. Look, money's great. Don't get me wrong. If anyone would like to donate to me, my bank account is ready. But so I would say, it was just a wake-up call. Some questions, because I was given space and time through COVID.
Yeah, I think like the same thing for me. Like the pandemic really showed us a lot, right? It kind of showed me that I was in a toxic job, that period, having that space to kind of reflect. Because like you said, a lot of us don't even have time and space to reflect. These jobs rob us of our time and our ability to just sit and think about things, right? Intentionally. This is intentionally designed this way. So when we do have that time and space to reflect, it's like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing all this time? This doesn't really feel like life.
Look, on balance, I think there's a nobleness in work and having a routine. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like, don't work, don't ever do that. No. But actually, I had gotten to a point where it was just like, what the hell is this nonsense? And being like, we're in a helping profession. I'm a social worker. Like, why is my boss a bully? Like, why is there so much like Machiavellian kind of strategy happening around me? Why are people behaving in this way? I've just come to share my skills so that the trajectory of the next generation of children can be different. That's all I'm here for. I'm not here for this like Machiavellian kind of strategy and backstabbing and this greasy pole up to the top and then all these other things. And I'm like, this is not what I'm here for.
Right.
So it was like these organizations are not going to fix up in my lifetime. I don't think they're going to fix up. So I'm like, well, what are your options, Ange? What can you do? And that's when you start to hatch a plan to get out.
Yes. And you said greasy pole to the top. Man, if that doesn't describe what it is. Yeah, that's true.
And the dynamic for us as Black people is just really different. Look, it's different for Black men in the workplace. It's different for us because of the way in which we internalize white gaze. And so, and it's something that when you do take a sabbatical or you do move abroad, you have to deal with. And this is one of the uncomfortable things that obviously we're going to talk about. And that's like really looking at your programming. And the programming that our cultures do to us is deep. It is elbows, bones, organs deep. It's deep. Yeah, it's deep.
It is. It really is. Yep. So I have two things that I want to share. First is, of course, a job liberation virtual summit for Black women coming up May 18th and 19th that I'm co-hosting with Dr. Kamani, which will give you those tools if you're kind of in that space, realizing like, what am I in? I want to get out. We will be co-hosting the summit with 11 Black women expert speakers, and tickets are now on sale for that, as well as a workshop that I'm co-hosting with Angela. From stress to serenity, an emotional health workshop. If you are planning a career break, sabbatical, move abroad, and looking to prioritize your emotional health, during your time away, this workshop is for you. And you can register now at bit.ly/stress to serenity. Yeah. But anything you
Amazing.
want to share around like the workshop and just, I guess, the tools that will be provided to
Yeah.
you if you're in this
I mean,
space? Yeah.
yeah, I think initially what I said was there are a few surprises. And one was, how my body was responding to rest. Because
Yeah.
I don't think and since I was a child, I don't think my body I wasn't in contact with my body. So that was something that I think we're going to be talking about in the workshop, because we want you
Mhm.
to be, I want people and you want people to be utterly
Mhm.
prepared. Obviously, it's never going to be 100%, but I thought I was dying when I
Mhm.
was resting. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was pretty serious, and I was quite worried. And so if we can share with you, what are some of the things that you can expect, so that when they happen, that that it's a normal part of the course. Your central nervous system is doing this decompression. Your body is decompressing from hormones like cortisol, all the stress hormones. And actually you're going through this deep deprogramming of your culture. And
Mhm.
this workshop, we're going to delve a little bit deeply about how to create a toolkit. So if you're taking a career break, a sabbatical, moving abroad, taking your business abroad, retiring abroad, we want to help you to create a toolkit of things that, one, you can expect, and how to manage them. And yeah, this, I wish that I had had this workshop,
Me
because
too.
it would
I
have
was
been
not
so much.
prepared.
No, I was totally unprepared. And that's because I don't think I was necessarily clear about why I was leaving. And this is what we're going to go through in
Mm.
the workshop as
Mhm.
well. Getting clear on why are you leaving. And that's not to guilt or shame anybody, because some of us are running from a burning house.
That's true. Yeah.
And so, what does that mean when you're running from a burning house? There are things, important documents that you may forget in the house. There are things that you may not be planned for because, it's an emergency. So,
Mhm.
if we're able to break down, like maybe recentering what it is that you want in this move, and actually decompressing from this, I'm running from a burning house, I've got to get out, this is awful. And it is
Mhm.
awful, but let's do it in a planned way so that your documents are not left in the house. And
Right.
you know what to, kind of what to expect.
Yeah, that's so pivotal. Because like you said, a lot of us are running from very traumatic situations. I know that was the case for me, kind of exiting a toxic job while moving abroad. I'm like, girl, that was a lot. Looking back, just now, like having the brain space to kind of reflect on where I was at that moment,
Yeah.
because it did feel like survival, right? Like I
Yeah.
had to get out of the job, of the country, and if I had had like an emotional toolkit that I could rely on in those moments when those feelings came up, I feel like that would have benefited me a lot. So that's what we're going to be talking about at the workshop
Yeah.
as well.
And me too. It's like I'd never, like in being a slow traveler, which is what I am, I had never thought about, well, what's super important to me? And I never realized that home and a sense of stability was going to be important. And I had to learn that
Mm.
very hard lesson going from Airbnb to Airbnb, you
Oh,
know.
you
Um,
talk my life. Yes.
so so really trying to drill down and say, like, in this move, what are the critical pillars that are going to make this move successful? And these are
Mm.
some of the things we're going to explore in this workshop. And I wish that I had never had that sense, I had never had that feeling about home or stability, because I see myself as a global citizen. So it
Yeah.
was a shock to go, oh no, actually that's super important to me. So I think if I was to go back, my plan probably would center on a lot more about creating a home, not just an Airbnb, but and what would I need to create a home. And so these are some of the things
Mhm.
that I wish I had had and are going to be in the works.
Yeah, and that touches on something like your values, right? A lot of
Mm,
us have never had time and space to kind of define what our values for our lives are. So we're just kind of
yeah,
out here like, this feels good, especially like moving abroad offers so much like hope, right? When we're
yeah,
in these traumatic environments. But if you're not clear on your values, you might run into some roadblocks early on
yeah.
when you make that move. So yeah, I think that's so
And
important.
for some people in this kind of moving abroad, they show their flexibility, they show their resilience, but not everybody either is experienced in moving abroad. And so, having that help along the way can be like super important, because you're going to be hopeful, you're going to be super excited, and you might actually have rose tinted glasses on. It's very
Yes.
possible, because you're running
Uh-huh.
from a burning house and you're running to hope, right? And
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
hoping for all of this freedom. But then when you get there and you realize that you take yourself with you, I'll give you an example. It when I
You take
started my
yourself with you.
Take
Oh
yourself with
gosh.
you. So
Mhm.
when I started my coaching business, what
Mhm.
happened was I was keenly aware that some of the values that I had developed, or some of the dysfunctional skills and values I had absorbed in grind culture, I'd
Mhm.
actually was taking it into my business. So
Yes.
the excess
Mhm.
working, the overthinking, the
Mhm.
you know, that's just that tunnel vision focus, that I noticed that when I was doing stuff for my business, I was operating the same way that I was doing when I
Right.
was in grind culture. And I was like, oh, hang on a minute. Do I really want to translate all of that stuff that I've been running to? And do I actively want to bring it into my business? And so I didn't. And I was like, okay, so how do I want my business to look? I work 3 days a week. I'm not a
Mhm.
morning person. I am not a morning person. So, and, you know, the way in which we work, it encourages you to be a morning person. I'm not one of those
That's
people. I wish
true. Mhm.
I don't some people, they get up at 6 o'clock and they feel great. I get up at 6 o'clock and I'm like, oh my God, I want to go back to bed. Um, and so, like, those are the things that I now needed to incorporate. So there is a level of awareness that you get when you have time and space about
Yeah.
what things you bring with you and what things you could just leave with grind culture. They can keep it.
That's so
and
key.
and so if I
Mhm.
can share that with another person who is on this journey, they've already got a head start. They can start
Yeah.
to construct however it is they're going to make their money, like construct it from themselves, centered from themselves, and not centered from an organization that really doesn't care about you at
Right.
all.
Yeah. That's so key. That's so key. It's like unlearning that. These things that are
Mm,
not serving us, because we've been in these patterns for
mm,
so often, and our brains have kind of been accustomed. I noticed that was one of the things for me. Like I would seek out stress. If I was feeling too relaxed, I'm like, this doesn't feel normal to me. Let me seek out something that's going to stress me out. Yeah, and that's one of the things I was not prepared for being abroad. The amount of stress that is alleviated from you just in your day to day life. Sometimes we
mm.
seek out things to fill that with so that it feels normal and we feel regulated again.
Yeah, but then
Yeah.
if you know that's something that potentially could happen for you on your career break, sabbatical, move abroad, then you get the opportunity and the liberty to then create something that is meaningful to you. So you might fill that gap with, oh, I've always wanted to do pottery. Or, when I have time and space and I'm feeling bored, wherever I am, I'm going to find that pottery class and I'm going to learn to put that clay on that wheel. Or I'm going to learn, I've always wanted to, do, I don't know, um, bungee jumping or kite surfing or whatever it
Yeah.
is.
Uh-huh.
You can then begin to create a routine to fill your time when you're maybe feeling a little bit discombobulated, because it does happen when you just don't know what's going on.
Yes, that is true. I did want to read a comment from D here. Yes, she said, "This is
Mhm.
a perfect topic for me as I go into my second year of not working and being here in Mexico. It's definitely a transition." It is. It is.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
yeah. And it's almost like you have to transition from doing to being. And
Ooh.
that is
Mm-hmm.
not something we are taught. We are taught that our value is in what we produce, our productivity and our relationship and our identity to work. When you do these career break sabbaticals moving abroad, you are now in, you have the choice to be.
Yeah, that's true. Mm-hmm. Choice to be. That's powerful. Thank you.
As a
Um.
human
Mhm.
being. Human being. Not a human doing, it's a human being.
Yeah, and we're taught that's where our worth exists, right? The things that we do, the things that we produce, the accolades, the credentials. So many of us have been seeking throughout our lives. It's like, who are you without any of that? That's kind of like an identity crisis, right? Might happen for
Yeah,
some of us. Like, who are
yeah,
you outside of these roles
yeah.
in ways that you work for other people? Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think that piece around identity exploration is a really big piece. Because,
Yeah.
in the Black community, as a Black woman, we are, we see our lives through the lens of being a Black woman. But one, those labels are not ours. They
Mm-hmm.
were bestowed upon us by
Absolutely.
other people for their own purposes, and we view ourselves through this. And I think
Yeah.
that we get the chance to redefine our identity. And I'm certainly, for me, I realized in taking this time away that actually I'm an extrovert.
Really?
I never knew I was an
Oh my
extrovert.
God.
No,
That's a huge realization. Wow.
yeah,
So you went
yeah.
all this time thinking you were an introvert to realizing
Well,
that, or
yeah, I felt I was a very internal person. So I'm
gotcha.
very much an observer. And I think that moving to Mexico, I kind of was able to put the observer away and actually be in and participate. And I think it's a trauma response, but that's another YouTube. But yeah, the extrovert Angela came out, and I was like, oh, this feels really comfortable.
Mm.
This actually feels really nice. Um, and I don't censor myself in the ways that maybe I did when I lived in Western countries. I feel much more courageous because I think doing making these leaps, like it can make you feel very empowered. There's a sense of
That's true.
pride about yourself in the world, and there's a level of self-acceptance that you develop, which is so beautiful.
Hmm. I agree. I agree. And like the self trust, right, of being
Mm,
able to navigate different environments, not being fluent in the language yet. I'll speak for myself. It's like, oh, I can do these things. These things that scare me, I have the ability to follow through, right, and ask
yeah,
people for help. That has been one of the hugest lessons I feel like I've learned. I have to ask people for help because
yeah,
I'm used to like doing everything by myself, which is again a trauma response.
yeah,
But it's learning. It's learning that you can ask people for help, and especially being in a country where people are willing to help you. It's so
yes,
different. It's so different.
yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's really interesting because obviously I spent a week in Bali with my whole family. So people from all over the planet came and we had a family holiday. And we stayed in this villa in Bali. And the Balinese people are just genuinely kind and um, very they have a collectivist mindset. And so we're
Yeah.
in this villa with 24-hour staff,
Oh
24
wow.
hour staff, right? We didn't know that it was going to be 24-hour stuff, and we struggled. Struggled because we're so used to doing things by ourselves. The staff would
Mm-hmm.
be like, call us when you need anything, and we were like, yeah, 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 but we didn't. And they would walk into, they would walk into rooms and we're doing stuff and they're like, you are on holiday. You are on holiday. They kept on saying, you are on holiday. Let us do that. And we, all of us, all 11 of us, we struggled with it because we're so used to doing things by ourselves. We're so used to having to take ownership of so many things that when someone steps in, paid to help us, 24/7, 24 hours, 7 days a week, our circuits were like just overloaded.
That's a mindset shift. Yeah.
We could not cope.
Realizing that people are there to help you, they want to help you, and you no longer have to do things by yourself. That's like huge. That requires a lot of rewiring. Mm-hmm.
It does, and it requires us to feel luxurious in the world. And that's not a stance that I have ever been messaged, that as a Black woman, as Angela, that I can luxuriate in the world. I mean, like, that is completely alien. But you know what? I'm here for it. I'm going to learn it and I'm going to luxuriate in the world. I'm going to receive from the world. I'm going to receive.
Mm-hmm. And that's actually like challenging oppression, right? Because we're not taught any of these things, that we deserve any of these things. So it's like when you are in that mindset of, no, I do and I can receive as well, it kind of opens you up to be able to receive as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, as women as well, like, I think as Black women, I think sometimes we may have got the short end of the straw. And I don't know if that's an English saying, but it means, like when back in the day, people would do straws, you get the short one in terms of femininity, in terms of how we view our femininity, in terms of how we think others view our femininity. And I think for us, the idea of receiving, for me anyway, has been a gateway into my own femininity. And I know that's strange and I can't explain it, but those are the connections that I've made.
Being open to receiving. I love that. I do want to read a comment from Metabolic Maven. Hello. I'll be going live with Audrey on Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern to talk about nutrition, how nutrition impacts our holistic wellness. But she says, hey, everyone, I'm so glad for this discussion. Yes, studies show too much cortisol shrinks the part of the brain that processes emotions, leading to anxiety and depression.
It can affect your memory, the white matter in your brain. It's and some cognitive functions are impacted by cortisol. And one of the things that I knew very well, working with kids who'd suffered significant early childhood trauma, was that the body can't sustain like being flooded with stress hormones all the time. It just can't. And what's critical for us as women is that it can lead to adrenal fatigue. And there is some medical, does this exist? Doesn't it exist? We do have adrenals. But what happens is when we hit, the stress hormones can impact our adrenal glands. And what happens is when you go into perimenopause and menopause, you need your adrenal glands because the production of sex hormones goes from your productive system into your adrenal glands. Your adrenal glands then begin to produce your sex hormones when you go into perimenopause and menopause. So when you've worked for 30, 40, 50 years and in these stressed out jobs, when you get to perimenopause and your adrenal glands need to take over from your reproductive system, your adrenal glands are fatigued. Your adrenal glands are fatigued. So it means then that and there is obviously a connection to burnout. The burnout of the adrenal glands doesn't mean that it stopped working. It means that the tap of on and off is no longer working because it's been flooded. that it doesn't begin to work anymore. And a lot of research is saying that as you hit perimenopause and menopause, we not only do we become carbohydrate insensitive, but we also become stress. We become sensitive to stress. So it kind of explains the wave of the Exodus Summit movement, the wave of the age group of some of the women that are saying, no longer can I do this, because as you hit perimenopause, you actually become sensitive to stress hormones. And if your adrenal glands are fatigued, then, you know, the switch over from producing sex hormones in your adrenal glands is not going to work as well. So your experience of perimenopause and menopause, maybe you may need some help from a professional to help the adrenal glands to get back to some kind of homeostasis.
Yeah, I remember you sharing that with me. I'm like, I had absolutely no idea, because we're not educated about these things, right? How our bodies are operating behind the scenes and being impacted by stress at such a deep level, like a cellular level.
Yeah.
That stress impacts us. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've got high levels of cortisol shrinking the brain. You've got adrenal glands that are trying to help you, but the system that we are working in actually affects, you know, us going into, you know, the elder stage of our lives. That's when we're meant to be elders, but we've got a shrinking brain that is impacting our cognitive function.
Oh my
and
gosh.
also we've got adrenal glands, we've got, you know, sensitivity to high levels of stress. It's my view that women who are perimenopausal or menopausal, this is when their families and friends and communities need to wrap them in cotton wool. That's when we need to be taken care of. That's what I believe. That's what I'm advocating for. So there is a physiological and physical, you know, downside for us to continue in these grind culture jobs, in these toxic environments, because later on down the line, we may be reaping physiological, physical, cognitive, brain function deficits.
Ooh, gotta sit with that one. Yeah, these can impact your life trajectory, right?
Yeah. So kudos to all the women who have who have decided to take sabbaticals, career breaks, have listened to their intuition, have, you know, skipped off into the world. You have done yourself a great service. Physiologically, your central nervous system will be thanking you into the longevity of your life.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I never really thought about like how serious this is. This is like
serious. And let's not talk about new research that's actually talking about the high incidences of women who are stressed out women who have autoimmune diseases. And they think it is to do with stress, long, prolonged, sustained, and significant levels of stress are impacting the high levels of women presenting with autoimmune syndromes and diseases. Like this kind of taking a break, taking, you know, a sabbatical, you know, really reviewing is actually going to pay dividend. It could pay dividends to you physically as you age, physiologically, cognitively, your central nervous system. Look, it is not frivolous to do these things. It is not frivolous. You may be saving your own life.
Angela. Woo. Oh my gosh. I think I needed to hear that. I really did. Because you can get caught up in like, do I deserve this? Right? Especially when we see so many people still struggling and not able to take a career break, take a sabbatical. But we have to be the representation to show them that it's possible. Right? It is possible.
It's a reality, and everybody's situation is is nuanced. You know, you might be caring for, you know, older parents, you might still have
That
children,
is
you
so
might have
true.
a partner that doesn't want to move. You
Hmm.
financially, there may be issues. You know, you may be challenged by feeling alone in the world or going out into the world with your knapsack on. You know, you might feel challenged by that, you know, because
Yeah.
maybe your life has been small. Maybe your life
Hmm.
has always been small. And there are some people who this is not for them. They're not interested in being out there in the world. They're perfectly happy, thank you, with what they have in their families and at home, you know. And so, yeah, they, you know,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
we could be saving our own lives. And I am so happy and pleased to see this wave of Black women in particular who have decided to, you know, empower themselves and
Hmm.
save their lives, basically. I know it sounds extreme, and sometimes I think when I come on YouTube, I feel overly dramatic sometimes. But when I connect
It's
what I
real.
know,
Hmm. Yep.
when I connect what I know about hormones, stress hormones, the roles that our bodies are meant to have over the life course, you know, developmental theory, attachment theory, when I connect the dots, I actually go, oh my goodness, we're saving our own lives and we're being guilted about
It's
it. We're
true.
we're being made to feel guilt and shame and
Mm.
scared.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's true.
if you don't do it for yourself, this body that you have that has taken you through so much deserves it.
Mm. That's a word. Thank you. Thank you. And I know for me being 30, right? Feeling like I need to work harder and then I'll be able to do this. But it's like the messaging I've been hearing is like do this as early as possible, right? Because this is serious. This is that serious. Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, everyone does their own thing in their own time, and
Yeah.
timing is great, and like everything works together. So there's no sense that, you know, you're behind the game. Your game is your game. Your
Yeah.
life is is your own film and theater piece, and you are the main character, and you need certain life lessons to be able to jump, to be able to do things,
It's
because you
true.
then look back and then you go, oh, if I hadn't experienced that, I wouldn't have been able to manage, cope, or
Yeah.
understand what the hell is going on. So
That's
everybody
true.
in their own time. There's no, you know, there's, you know, like in yoga, they say, you know, you're not in competition with anybody else. You know, have you ever been in those yoga classes where they say,
I
you know,
have.
if you can't do this back bend with your leg behind your, you know, head, you know, don't compete with anybody else.
That's true. That's true. Yep, your journey is your journey. There is no competition.
Mm,
Yep,
mm,
that's so key. Um, Lydia says, "Hey, Lydia, the rewiring is so challenging when everyone in your life is fighting against your growth and relearning." Mm. I wonder if you have
look,
anything to, yeah, to share.
look,
Ooh.
I think, look, this is my personal view. I
Hmm.
think that, like I said, we are all in our own theatre piece and we are the main characters in our story. And so you have to view everybody else as either an understudy or they're supporting their characters just outside of you. They are not, they don't, they, you know, it's like when you know you need to do something and your best friend says, like, what the hell are you doing? They didn't
Hmm.
receive that message, you did.
Yep.
And actually, they may be talking to you from their own concern about you, which may or may not be valid. And it might be about how they see themselves in the world, how secure they may feel about themselves in the world, and fear that you might change.
Mm.
Yeah, that you might change.
Yep.
And that there is,
Yep.
you know, if
And
you're
what that may
thinking
mean for
about
their
moving,
life, right? If you, hmm,
absolutely. They might be thinking, oh, I'm going to miss her face, or I'm going to miss, you know, living a similar life when this person's off, watching the Tower of Pisa and eating, going to the Amalfi Coast or going to Portugal or, eating chocolate in Ghana, or do you know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
in Senegal, or, having pad thai in Thailand, your lives may take your friends might be scared, your friends and
Ooh.
family might be scared that you are no longer going to be the person. And it's nuanced, and sometimes it's about the dynamic. And one of the things that, in psychology, like Freud talked about, was like transference and counter-transference. It's like where you are actually, your response to somebody may not be about them, it's about you. And it might be bringing up feelings for you about
Yeah.
what this means for you, as opposed to, yes, let's go off into the world. When you're in Bali, call me because I'm going to come. When you're in Mexico, I'm going to come. When you're in Singapore, let's go and eat like
Right.
crab together, chili crab together. So I think you have to view them with compassion, but know that the messaging was for you. The dream, the intuition, all the things that
Mm-hmm.
you're feeling, that is a message for you. And it's a clear case of boundaries. It's a clear
Mm-hmm.
case of saying, I hear you, but you aren't the one that did you're not the one that got the dream. You're not the one that's getting the intuition. And yes, I'm going to be careful, I'm going to be planned, but this is what I'm going to do.
Mm.
And you have to
Mm.
feed people information. Timing is key. Like when you're
Mm-hmm.
beginning to form these plans, you don't talk to everybody. Do not talk
That's
to
so true.
everybody.
Not everyone's gonna get it.
If
Mm-mm.
your best friend is not always someone who is supportive of your life in a particular way, somebody who maybe is always trying to tell you the truth as they see it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
in that horrible tone, I'm just telling you the truth. Maybe
Mm.
they're not the people to talk about when you're forming these things. You
Right.
maybe tell them in the middle or towards the end. There are some people who didn't know that I was making these plans,
Mm-hmm.
and not because they're bad people, but I know that there are some people that don't have a track record of supporting you in the way that you want to be supported. Doesn't mean they're bad, doesn't mean they can't be in your life, but when you're forming these dreams, they are not the people that you talk to in the beginning.
That's key. Yeah. Because if you share something that's not really like formed, right, it has the potential to kind of crush anything that could have come from that because you're listening to someone who's not ready to receive it, who's not on that same wavelength. And I think that's so important to be around community of people who do get it,
Mm,
who can support you during that time. Because doing it alone is very hard. So the more
mm.
that you can get around people who understand you, get you, support you on that journey, I think that's pivotal. Yeah.
Yeah, it is important. And that when you feel strong in your dream, strong in your plan, that's when you can share it. Because
Yeah.
then you would have worked out the kinks yourself, and you would have your plan A, B, C's, D's to Z. You would have your plans in place so that when they say this, you can say, oh no, that's already been taken care of because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
Because it's almost like a baby, right? It's like you're
Mm-hmm. It's
nurturing your
true.
dream is like a baby. So you don't necessarily give your 5-year-old, you don't necessarily just allow you don't interact with the baby as if it's like fully formed. It needs
Mm-hmm.
nurturing, it needs protecting, it needs guidance. Um, and so, I just think you could see it as that. And it's only
Mm-hmm.
when it's baby's fully formed that you're able to you know do all the things that you would do with a 5-year-old that you wouldn't necessarily do with a baby. So that's how I view it anyway.
Yeah. That's a perfect analogy. Yeah. I do want to read a comment from Dr. Kamani. Hey, yes, so important to model what is possible for us. The toxicity of situations poison us to believe that we have no real options except to remain in the toxicity. Ooh, yes, yes.
Mm,
So, kind of reimagining what's possible, right?
mm,
And for a lot of us, when we have that time to take away from the daily grind, it's like all these options. start to pop up that you couldn't see before because you were in survival mode the entire time.
Yeah.
Did you experience any of that? I wonder, like, just being able to dream of new things.
Look, I think I always I grew up on the idea that the world was always mine, and that
Mm-hmm.
I was an active participant in the world. You know, regardless of what people thought about me as being a female or being black, you know, I was always going to be in the world. I was always going to participate in the world in a larger way, I think. And I think that I didn't know what was possible. I didn't know what was possible, but I knew it could, whatever it was possible, but I just didn't know what it looked like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then when I started to dream about, like, what would work for me, where would I like to be, what's my budget, like, what's community look like, what does home look like, what do I need, what culture might celebrate me, what cultures may just tolerate me, and actually what cultures are downright going to be dangerous. And so, yeah, I knew it was possible, but I just didn't know what it looked like. But I would say to anybody out there, the dream is yours. You get to curate it. There's no boundary, really.
The dream is yours.
Yeah. The dream is yours.
I do want to read a comment from Soul Inspired. The rat race totally turned my quality of life upside down, and when I look back at it, I'm pissed. That's real.
Yeah.
Yeah, those feelings of anger can come up too, which is something to be prepared for. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was furious. I was rageful. I was rageful. And it makes me think about the cycle of grief, where you leave and you're actually in a state of disbelief and shock that you have been scammed. In essence,
it's true.
I felt like I had been scammed. And then you go through anger. Yeah, because I wouldn't say it was anger. I was in rage. I was rageful. And then you get into the, cycle of, accepting and, coming back to, like, your kind of like homeostasis of it's okay. But it is actually, you go through the stages of grief. You actually do.
Yeah, that's so real. And I know Dr. Kamani talks about this on her channel, right? The stages of grief when you leave a toxic job. It's like the same. Anything you're leaving, something that you've been attached to. And a lot of us attach our identities to these places. It's like when you leave, you start to realize, oh my gosh, this was not serving me. And in fact, I was put on this pipeline that was harming me the entire time. Of course, I'm angry, right? And a lot of us don't have the space to express our anger, which also can create illness in the body, right? When you continue to suppress those emotions that pop up because you don't have a safe space, that can result in illness. Yeah, in many different forms. Yeah.
Absolutely. But with awareness and with, like, this whole wave, this whole movement of Black women who are sharing their experiences of not just the workplace, but what it means in certain Western countries to be a Black woman, the pressures and the stress. In these things, we haven't even talked about romance and relationships and what it means to be a parent as a Black woman. We haven't even touched the surface about
that's true.
What those things can look like for us. And so the levels of stress can come from lots of different places for us as human beings, but there are nuances for us as Black women. And I just think that, anyway, I'm just glad that this wave, this movement is quite visible now. And, not just in terms of the, African American experience, but also, women from the African diaspora talking about this all at the same time. And is it a coincidence that this is all happening at the same time? But it's a new day, I would say. And the messaging is a new day. And the messaging is very different now for those coming up behind us, because the unique and beautiful thing about being a Black woman is the way in which we share with each other, the way in which we, when we're going up the ladder, we don't pull the ladder up, we give you a hand up. That's what we do. And that's when people are talking about Black girl magic or Black woman magic, that's part of our magic, is that we will share what we have. We will support each other as much as we can. And so now there's a blueprint and there's messaging out there for other women, Black and even non-Black, brown, white, whatever, want to be able to make these significant transitions. It's a new day.
It's a new day. Yeah, that is so true. And I think this conversation I was just having with Dr. Kamani the other day, right? A lot of these are global issues. And so the more that we can see like the connection points between our experiences as Black women globally, it's like the power that exists in that, because there are so often like intentional ways to try to divide us, right? Oppressive tactics, honestly, to continue systems of oppression. But it's like the more that we're able to share our stories in community, realize how much they overlap our experiences, we can begin to like form those connections with each other and share knowledge. I think that's so powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm gonna share your YouTube channel in the chat. Yeah. Please subscribe to Angela's channel.
Yes, yes. I've recently started a YouTube channel because I realized that actually there are things that I know that, are just going to be useful to share. I don't want to go to the grave with loads of information in my bones. I feel like I want to be able to share that, what I know about, emotional literacy, how important that is for us. Look, our parents have given us the legacy of education, which has led us to some levels of financial freedom, right? Which has enabled some of us and a lot of us to be able to make this journey. But then when we get there, there is another piece. And that piece is, what is our emotional world and what does that look like? Can we indeed receive from life? Like, can you take 24-hour, care? Can you receive from life? Can you, can we reconfigure our lives in a different way that is actually about our internal world? The emotional literacy, our emotional landscape. And what I've learned as a social worker over almost 30 years of understanding human development, human relationships, the role of hormones. Hormones are powerful. We just do not get how powerful hormones are. And if I was talking to a client yesterday and we were talking about, I think we've talked about this before, the link between the diaphragm and when you breathe into the diaphragm, the signal that it can send to the brain. Don't release stress hormones, like things like that when we know those hacks, and we know we're going into, stressful, high stress, anxious producing environments, we can use those hacks. So we can use the body, we can use what our emotions are telling us, we can use things like body mapping, we can use things like I said, breath work, and all these other things that are research-based to actually help us to understand our internal world. We've conquered the out world. We've conquered work. We've conquered money. We've conquered success. We've conquered all those things. And we found it wanting. And so to add to the equation of life, we are now meeting the head part of us with the heart part of us. And the heart part of us can start with our emotions, reconnecting with our bodies again, understanding how powerful emotions. I mean, as women, we're on 1 month cycle of
Mm-hmm.
3 different types of hormones.
Ooh, don't I know?
Like,
Yeah.
like if
Yes.
we don't get how important hormones are for us, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how we can use when we understand those hormones, it changes how we engage in life on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So it should also be in your toolkit.
Yeah.
What are the things that you need as you're going in a particular part of your cycle? Like, what are some of the things that you need
Ooh,
that need to be in your
that would
toolkit?
be a fantastic workshop. Oh my God. Ooh. Mm-hmm.
How are you going to rest? Because you're in an unfamiliar place. How are
Mm-hmm.
you going to begin to rest when you need to be in the third part of your cycle? What are you going to do? How are you going to manage, some of the, how can I put this delicately? The stuff that happens just before you come on your period, like where you
Mm-hmm.
might be extremely discombobulated and
Yes.
rageful, angry,
Yes. Check.
chocolate
Mm-hmm.
chocolate wanting, carbohydrate
Mm-hmm.
wanting,
Yes.
fried food wanting, overindulgent, not yourself, body
Mm-hmm.
aching. How are you going to manage that as when you're away from all the things that are unfamiliar? And you might become frustrated because your frustration may be language, getting what you need, food,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
sometimes you see something that looks like it's from home, and then when you
Mm-hmm.
eat it, it's completely
It's like,
different.
no, this ain't it.
Just did not hit the spot.
Yeah.
Didn't hit the spot.
Yes.
So I'm really I really am about this toolkit and about emotional literacy and understanding your emotional landscape, because I believe, one, it's the future, and two, that's where the richness of life comes from. It's not, work is great and it gives us a real sense of accomplishment and it's noble and all those yada 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 things. But the richness of life is also about understanding our internal landscape, how we then, interact with others. And that's the richness of life, right?
Mm-hmm. That's
The
true.
richness of life.
That's the richness of life. Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, as we are wrapping up, I'd love to ask how people can continue to follow you, work with you, as an emotional well-being coach, and also like anything else you'd like to share, any offerings that you have coming up.
So I have a website, which you can, if you would like to work with me, book a discovery call. Let's have a conversation about what is it that you're wanting to achieve. How could my coaching program and my coaching approach assist you? So here we are on the screen, my
Mm-hmm.
website. Also, you can follow me on YouTube at How to Glow Up My Life. And I'm just starting, so I would love for you to subscribe and to follow along on my journey. And also, I'm on Instagram at glow_up_my_life, and follow me. And that's where you get the combination of who I am as an emotional well-being coach, also as a slow traveler. So you also get to see all the bits of when I'm traveling. So you get all the Mexico, you get all the Bali, you get all the Qatar, you get all the Australia, you get all of that, because I want you to know who I am as a person. And I think that helps with the coaching, I think. So I would like people to, follow me, have a look, subscribe, get in contact with me if you have a question. Go on my website, or you can message me a question. If it's a coaching question, then I would definitely book a discovery call. And that is
Yay.
me.
Yay. And yes, we do have an emotional health workshop coming up on Tuesday, April 23rd, at 7 p.m. Eastern, called From Stress to Serenity. If you are planning time away, a career break, a sabbatical, and move abroad, and looking to build your emotional toolkit before you leave, or if you're in the process and kind of these emotions are coming up for you, now this may be a helpful workshop for you. And there is a link to register on the screen.
Yes.
So yeah, with that,
Yes.
Yeah, I just want to thank y'all so much for being in the chat, contributing all the knowledge that you have, as always. And yeah, thank you, Angela, so much for being here,
Yeah,
sharing with
thank you.
us.
Thank you so much. And it's been amazing. One thing I would say about like taking a career break, sabbatical, moving abroad, because I think I've done all of them, is that I get to meet people like you, Marissa. I get to meet like the wonderful people that are just so inspiring and super hardworking and about creating community. And that's one of the great richnesses about being on this journey, is all the phenomenal Black women that I've met. The Exodus Summit, Rashida, and the crew, and Dr. Kamani, yourself, Gazimi, you know, all of you, just super inspiring. And I'm so glad that I have taken this journey, because I wouldn't have met you otherwise.
Oh, yay. Same here. Same here. Yes. That means so much to me. And just being in your presence, right? Every single time I'm like, have so many revelations come to me. I'm like, okay, I got to sit with that. That's a journaling prompt. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, guys. And I hope that this serves as a, you know, a great springboard.
Yes, absolutely. Thank y'all so much. Thank you for watching.
Bye.
Until next time, y'all. Bye. Thank
Bye.
you.